It's just like, okay, we need to wear. Because that's outside, no, we finna get ready to go on, fellas. Well, we already live on Facebook Live, we finna get ready to go. Well, we got a commercial. We got that 30 second commercial. Alright, no problem. You already live? Yeah. What's good, baby? Y'all see what it is. Hip hop is my religion. Y'all see what it is. Let's talk this thing. Please share this. Get everybody involved who needs to be involved. This is a great conversation that we need to have in our community. Please, please, please. Is there too much damn religion in our community? Let's have this conversation.
When is the best time to
whatever
talk to
denomination,
your family
whatever
about staying
religion
in
you
touch
practice,
during a
please
disaster?
holler at your boy.
When
We gotta have
floodwaters
this
reach your
conversation.
door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
You have just entered the building with your boys, King and Sane. Welcome to Shop Talking Random-ish, where conversation rules the nation and no topic is off limits.
You know, this ain't nothing but healthy conversation.
Now welcome your hosts, Rick King and Will Sane.
Greetings, 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 greetings. Worldwide Web, internets, all y'all, whoever out yonder, Facebook Live, whatever you're doing. It's your boy, Rick King, and this is Barbershop Talking Random-ish with your boy, King and Sane. Of course, Kane is not in the building. The lovely Starlight is not in the building. But your boy, Rick King, is in the building. And normally when they leave me in here by myself, you know how your boy like to do it. I like to bring these ladies in here, and we like to get in here, turn the lights down low. But we ain't doing it tonight. We got some things going on that need to be talked about. Tonight I got, y'all can see them. Ladies, this is for y'all. We got two pretty brothers in the house tonight. They got nice and clean, got the hair, they got the hair all done and everything. They got right for y'all tonight. Tonight we're gonna have a good conversation. But first, this is Barbershop Talking Random-ish. In this here barbershop ain't no conversation taboo. You know how we do. We're gonna talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of everything. If you want to get in here into this barbershop, please holler at us at 404-603-8770. And if you in your mammy basement, please let her know it's not one of them 919999999999999. It's not one of them 999 numbers. It's on us. We gonna take it. Call us at 1-888-926-7562. Y'all check this out. The shop is now open. Tonight, I told y'all about this conversation we gonna have. We sent the posters out. This conversation is about, is there too much damn religion in our community? And tonight I have two brothers in the house with me. Murray.
William Brown.
Pastor Brian Moore are in the building with me tonight. So y'all can know, I also wanted a Muslim brother, and there was a reason why I wanted, for this here conversation, I wanted these particular brothers in here tonight, because this affects my community. And when I say my community, I mean the black community. Mm-hmm. Now I know y'all looking at the brother in the middle. Him a little light skin, hair blonde, blondish,
What that silver?
silverish. Y'all saying he's a pretty white boy. There's a reason why he's here though. And after I witnessed his congregation I knew that I wanted him to be part of this conversation. Me and my co-host, Will Sane, has been trying to put this conversation together since Easter. The Friday before Easter, I was trying to get together. We was trying to have a conversation about religion. And I'm sure that that conversation is not what this conversation was about. This has evolved in my head and is his head. And after hearing Brother William speak on some things and after hearing Brother Brian speak on some things, this is what this conversation has evolved to in my head. When I say my community, I specifically mean the black community. And once again, I know y'all thinking, we have a white guy. And we talking about the black community. I said the same thing. Trust me, I said the same damn thing. But after witnessing, and it was one specific thing that I witnessed, because he has a church, he has a startup church in Athens, the Recreation Church, that my brother is a part of. And my brother invited me to come down to check this out. And for nothing else, I was going to support my brother. When I walked in, looked to my left and looked to my right, there was a whole bunch of us in there. Okay. Let's see what this do. But all of the us's wasn't from Athens. These brothers and sisters from Alabama, from Atlanta, and they was here to hear Brian speak. Let me see what this is about. So, and when at the end of everything he had to say is what let me know that I really wanted him to be part of this conversation. Because, you know, we done did the tradition of pass the plate around. But at the end, after he did that, he had, he wanted to take up an offering for the homeless, for the unfortunate, for the people in that community, our community, Athens, Georgia, my home. He was taking up something for them, to specifically give to them. At that point, I knew I wanted this brother to be part of this conversation because that lets me know he is in my community and trying to help my community. Why do I ask, is there too much damn religion in my community? First of all, I would need to do something. I did some research. Y'all know I don't do this. Got some definitions of some words, religion, the belief in, worship of superhuman controlling power, a person, the God of God. Whole bunch of words. And I think when I came up with this, I was thinking, I think for a lot of us, we bring the word religion and church, we kind of intertwine them together. In a lot of communities, you can go and you can see a liquor store, a gun shop, and a church all on one corner. Back to back to back to back to back. And we see these churches, and we see what can be different religions, all in the same neighborhoods. But what I have a problem with this is we have all these churches in the same neighborhood and nobody's working together to help out our community. Our communities are struggling. We have homeless. We have poverty. We have black on black, white on white, Mexican on Mexican. whoever on whoever crimes going on in our community. Just last week, last Saturday, the Calloway family had to bury, in Athens, they had to bury a daughter, a niece. She was about to be a mother, and they had to bury her due to senseless violence in Athens, my community. But we have all these churches, all this religion in our communities, and I know the conversation me and you was having. When we did your show, we had a conversation. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Fellas, before I get into this, who are y'all? We at the barbershop. You know we ain't got no, I'm sorry. And before we do that, barbershop style conversation. Why did I pick this? Why did me and my co-host pick this as our title and our motto for the show? Because in the barbershop, in the black community, in my communities, is where everybody meets.
Yeah.
And the barbershop is the first place that I have seen my grandfather become a man. Just a man. He became a man. He wasn't my grandfather in the barbershop. He was a man. I seen my dad become a man in the barbershop. Because in the barbershop, everybody comes together. My grandfather was a Jehovah's Witness. But I seen him talk to Baptists, Muslims, and they all in the barbershop. In the barbershop, they have all these conversations. You learn things in the barbershop. You get passionate in the barbershop. You get heated in the barbershop. But you learn something in the barbershop. The first grown folks' real conversation I ever had was in the barbershop. Because like I say, at that time, the men in my house were able to be just men in the barbershop. That's why we are here in this barbershop, because I think the barbershop is one of the most influential places in our communities. That's why these men are here. Who are these men? They're going to tell you who they are, because like I said, we in the barbershop. Ain't that influence. I don't know. Ain't got no paperwork on none of them. Who are y'all?
Good. What's going on, everybody? This is Moray, William Brown. Moray means teacher. Some call me pastor, depending on the context of where I'm at. I'm just a servant of the Lord, and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, born and raised. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. Pastor Boone Church, which means Believers of One Messiah. And I'm thankful to be here, to be honest with you. It's crazy because what you were describing, as our brother Brian was doing within the community, with raising offering for the homeless and things like that. Those are things that we strongly stress. And matter of fact, the other day, maybe about 2 days ago, I did a lesson on Facebook Live concerning, if we're going to build anything, let us not forget about the orphans. That is something that we're obligated to do, to go see about them. Let us not forget about the homeless, and let us not forget about the widows. And so I think it's very important that we look at that culturally and get an understanding of that. So we'll get into the conversation, but I just wanted to, introduce myself for who I am. I see a lot of my Boone family listening. They on live right now.
Thank you.
Tuning in. So I'm going to turn it over to our brother Brian, and we go from there.
Amen. It's a joy for me to be here, too. I'm grateful to have been introduced to the King family.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here, to my pastor friend as well. Just excited to be here. I am a 25-year in ministry. We'll talk about this maybe in a little bit, but the whole religion relationship concept for me, I didn't grow up in church. And so my context is different. I always considered it an advantage. Sometimes church can be a huge disadvantage, especially when the traditions of men are superseded and exalted above the Word of God. And so for me, I am a servant, as my fellow pastor said. The first 3 words I ever heard the Lord say was, teach my word. 3 words changed my life. I was 18 years old, and I've spent the last 25 years having the privilege of doing that in a lot of different contexts and a lot of different places. Not even the most excited about the platforms as much as just the conversations I've had with people. I met a guy that lives in my neighborhood. I started walking with a group of older gentlemen in my neighborhood this week. We're a pretty eclectic group. One's black, one's from Poland, one's white, and another one's European. So we got this little eclectic, diverse group.
Gumbo going on.
Yeah, and so I ended up having an opportunity to talk and just share. And out of nowhere, just happenstance, the guy asked me about my story, and I told him my story. And he was a classic Southern white Trump supporter by his own explanation,
man.
by his own right. But what I noticed something for me, getting outside of the context of ministry, and I'm going somewhere with this, outside of the religious experience, there's what's called relationship.
Yes.
And so within about 30 minutes of telling my story, which is not a G-rated story, it's a made-for-TV dramatic story filled with ups and downs, hits and misses. This almost 70-year-old gentleman looks me in the face. He stops us right in the middle of our walk, and he's weeping down both of his eyes. And he grabbed me and he bear hugs me. And he said, "Man, your story has just literally changed my life." And I didn't quote a scripture. I didn't go through this religious rhetoric.
Yeah.
I just told him about what losing looks like and what winning looks like when you get in the right relationship. And so I'm a byproduct of great men. I'll say this and I'll hush, but I'm a byproduct of great men. I've had the honor of serving great men for 25 years. And so 2 months ago, we planted a church, my wife and I, on a mandate that the Lord dropped in our heart called Recreation Church. And it's an intentional church in a lot of regards, but our intention is primarily to be a multicultural, multi-ethnic group of people that God is going to bring to the table. And we chose to use recreation or recreation because I believe sports brings people to the table like nothing else in the world can do. And so when you get people to the table, then you can have honest conversations about where we're at, where we're from, and where we want to go as a community. And so I've had the privilege, like I said, of serving great men, Pastor Hart Ramsey being the greatest of that in my estimation, the last 18 years serving with him in Alabama, Montgomery, and Dothan. Some of the greatest people in the world are right there in Montgomery, Alabama. I was a white man and a predominantly African-American
How did that happen? That question
That's
has
a whole
yes.
nother show. That's a whole show all by itself.
I mean, because
the ministry of rock bottom is what I call it. The ministry of rock bottom, God will bump you into places when you have nothing that you'll never find when you have everything. And so when you reach a place...
Say that again? Say that one more time.
The ministry of rock bottom, God will use that ministry. I call it rock bottom.
Okay.
When you get to the place where you have nothing, you'll find things that you'll never discover when you have everything. And so God began to bump my life through bad choices of my own. And I find myself in a city where I don't know nobody. Don't have nothing but the clothes on my back through bad decisions of my own. Not before I met Christ, but after I met Christ. 7 years in ministry on the journey. My life hit rock bottom, literally. And so I ended up in a little town called Dothan, Alabama. I didn't know nobody. Literally moved there because I had a sense I was supposed to be there. And fast forward that, I met my wife there. I met Pastor Hart Ramsey there, and he spoke life into me. Somebody invited me to come to a new work that had just come to Dothan. And he had just planted a church there, moved from Ozark to Dothan, and God used him. It's the first time I'd ever heard anybody teach the word flat-footed. I didn't grow up in church. Now, mind you, my reference is not church, so I don't have any reference for what church is supposed to be like. Okay. And so we use a statement, and I've used it for a long time. I've heard other people say it, but I met Jesus before I met his wife.
Okay.
So if the church is the bride and Christ is the groom, I met the husband before I met his wife. And so my whole experience was shaped through the relationship with the groom. I know him.
Okay.
I met his wife as a result of being in the body of Christ for the first time in my experience. And so my life changed. And so I found myself, always grew up in a very multicultural world because I'm very sports driven. Sports was my religion. We'll talk about that too, but sports was my religion. It was just, that was it. That's why I didn't go to church. We're playing ball. If the sun was up, we're playing ball. Basketball, football, baseball, anything with a ball, we played it year round. That was my life. And so I had my own plans. And so I met the Lord on an acid and a marijuana high on a 72-hour trip.
Say that one more time.
I met the Lord on a 72-hour acid and marijuana overdose. I didn't know I'd been laced with acid. We've been smoking pot for years, and so playing ball during the week and smoking pot on the weekends, and that's just what we did. And grew it, sold it, did the whole deal, and at the end of a 72-hour high, I felt my life about to come to an end. I felt darkness. I felt death. The term trip was a reality. And I remember asking the Lord, I cried out in Fernandina Beach, Florida. I cried out that night on the floor, and I asked the Lord, I said, if you'll spare my life, I'll give you the rest of my days. And I know people say that. I heard in church people say that years later. I didn't know people said that. But it was me, it was an experience. And so I told the Lord, if you spare my life, I'll give you the rest of my life. And so that was 25 years ago. He spared my life. I woke up, went to sleep, woke up in my own bodily fluids.
Yeah.
And,
I'm sure a lot of us have had those days.
I woke up in my own experience.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
stole a car, drove back home, Southeast Georgia, and showed up at a little church.
Hold on,
Yeah,
you
you
asked
heard
God
me.
to save you, but you stole the car to get there. Huh? Hey!
I'll tell you the rest of that story later too. I cursed when I prayed for 6 months after that because I didn't know how you're supposed to pray. So I talked to the Lord like I talked to everybody else. And so, anyway, I'm gonna hush for my part, but religion and relationship are a big deal to me. And so we're in Athens, Georgia. We're only 2 months old. We got a new church there, a solid group of people there, and we are diverse. We're intentionally diverse. I told the Lord I'm not going to plant this church if everybody looks like me, because I can grow anything that you give me. But when a farmer wants apples, he plants apple seeds. When a farmer wants oranges, he plants orange seeds. When he wants corn, he plants corn seeds. When he wants peanuts, he plants peanuts. And so you got to fish with what you want to catch. Every particular culture and community responds to different bait. Jesus said, I'll make you fishers of men. You don't automatically know how to fish. He told Andrew and Peter, he said, I'm going to make you. As a matter of fact, ironically enough, 1/3 of the disciples were fishermen. So their whole culture, the whole kingdom was built on fishermen and heathens. We don't have time to talk about all 12, but that whole culture was built on Skid Row. These were guys that were not prototypical religious people. They were average, ordinary people. And so Recreation Church is a group of people that just love the Lord, and we love people. We're as deep as Jesus is. And he said, all men will know you based on your love for me and your love for one another. And so that's the premise of what we do. But we're intentional. We'll talk about that more.
Okay, first of all, when I first went to his church, he said he don't like to talk. I said, damn, like that man talk too much. But I like it. William, how did you come to where you are in your experience with God and your church, and how did you get to where you are in that path?
Well, we're a Messianic Hebrew congregation.
So you're a Hebrew Israelite?
Well, yes, in the sense of cultural versus dealing with religion. And I'm glad he was kind of throwing out the understanding of culture. He kept using that terminology. It's important to understand that the Bible is derived of culture when we talk about God's culture, right?
Which Bible? Because
It's
the
all-
Bible has been that's a lie.
Go ahead.
The Bible done been remixed by Puffy, JD, Pete Rock, Knife Wonder, Beethoven.
Now you're making me take my glasses.
Please take your glasses off. I want you to take your glasses off.
Take me glasses. Okay.
So So the Bible don't be been remixed, stepped on, cut. I'm using all the terms that everybody can understand.
Okay. Yes. All right. So he said the Bible has been remixed.
JD.
Okay.
Puffy.
What is your understanding? What is your understanding of remixing? No, first of all, let me ask you this: have you thoroughly read the Bible?
I was raised in the Jehovah's Witness house.
Okay.
So yes, I have been through the Bible backwards and forwards.
Okay.
Now that's been a long time.
Okay. Okay.
It's been a long time.
Okay.
So yes. So yes, I have been through the Bible.
Okay. So the Bible has, according to your understanding, the Bible has been remixed.
Yes.
I think what you're trying to say is that the Bible has been translated several different ways.
Now you can you can make it sound cute as you
want.
No,
that's not cute. Translations. The Bible has been translated and transliterated. Okay, transliterated is from language to language, right? In other cultures, there are different languages. There's different concepts that goes with that. So you can't use certain lettering in certain cultures, right? So it has to be transliterated, which means that you go from Yahushua, which is Paleo, then that's translated. Then you go to the modern, which is we have modern Hebrew today, and that's known as vowel points, which in Paleo, it was pictographs. In today's time, you have vowel points. So now you go from Yahushua in Paleo to now a more modern term. It's transliterated to Yeshua. I'm
gonna make him break all of this down.
I'm breaking it down for you.
Yes, sir.
Break it down for you.
Yes, sir.
Then you go from now what we have more people outside of the Hebrew culture or out of the Hebrew context, meaning what the Bible calls Gentiles, right? So you have all this church being grown that's compiled of Hebrews and Gentiles. Now we fast forward, we're in America. During that day, there was no English language. There was the Greek and the Latin, right? So the Bible has to be translated into Greek. Why? Because you got Greek believers coming in. Latin, you got Latin believers coming in. Now you got English. There was no J's during that time, even though you had the Quaker English, which is the 1611 Bible, right? That was the basic English standard, was the 1611. Before that, in the 1500s, you had what's called the Geneva Bible. Before the Geneva Bible, then you had the 1611. Now you're coming into a more modern concept of the English language, which there was no J's. Now you have a basic English that incorporates J's. So now you have to transliterate all these things. It doesn't take away from the context of who you're talking about. It just means that in certain languages, like in Swahili, there may not be certain alphabetical characters that's in English. So you can't replace and add those letters because that's not in their context.
So how many remixes is that?
The Bible, no, that's not remix. Okay, that means that if you speak Spanish, he speaks Russian, I speak German, the Bible has to be transliterated so all of us can understand.
Right. Who did this?
Of course, man did it.
Okay.
But that doesn't take away from the validity of it.
Does it not?
No. Because how is it going to be translated without man?
And I get it, but man is the problem. But ain't man the problem?
But how can it be translated without men?
It can't.
How did you learn alphabets?
It can't be translated without men. But it's susceptible to his.
No, it's not. If it's being translated. Now here's the thing. You have what now is called copyrights, right?
Yes.
So you have, like, say for instance, we come up with talking random-ish version of the Bible, right? Now, my version of the Bible, according to my version, right? I have it written a certain kind of way.
Yes.
So now you're dealing with copyright violation within America. If you want to come up with a translation of the Bible, it can't be my version because legally, that means it's going to violate copyrights. So what you do?
I changed some stuff.
You either take away a period.
I get it.
Somebody said, "What book on earth hasn't been written by a man?"
That's what I'm saying.
But I get it.
Come on, man.
The problem is man. But it's because, but I'm gonna tell you why I said it. And we got 1 minute, and we're gonna get into what we came here for. This is, hey fellas. Now this is not a rap battle. But exactly. But in my barbershop, we get heated. We get emotional. We get all that. So I don't want y'all to think this is a rap battle. Now, What you said is correct. And wet Bible is not written by man, which is, yes. But man is the problem because man, the ideology of what he puts in it becomes the problem.
But it doesn't take away from the validity of the scriptures. You know why? Because God didn't create the Bible for himself, meaning he's not limited to the Bible. But he's created the Bible for man.
Every racist,
that's why he said
every
don't
racist
change or add to it.
Every sexist,
okay,
every ist take what they want from the Bible and translate, translute, transdo, remix so they can make it fit for their benefit.
But that's not God's problem.
I know it's not God's problem, but that is the problem. Okay. That's why our community is messed up as it is. Okay. And we're finna take a break and we're gonna come back to that. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna get into some of this music. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about why there's too much damn remixes in our release. Right.
Hey, y'all need to get the energy down.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
Expressed during the sponsored programs on this station are strictly those of the program hosts, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of Beasley Broadcast Group, this station, its staff, advertisers, or agents.
Woo! I love it!
Get the energy up, fellas. Y'all land. We need more. Y'all need more. Y'all ain't giving enough, man.
But this is why it's important to understand the culture. Understand the culture of the Bible. Because God knew that men would add and take away from it. That's why he warned us about it. He said in the Old Testament, don't change my word. In the New Testament, don't change my word.
But some of it,
but some of it, man has taken and added maybe bits, but it doesn't take away from the. If you understand the culture of it, you can read it. Like in our congregation, we deal with the Hebrew. We have white people in our congregation. We have Asian people in our congregation. We have different.
Hold on. Y'all have what?
We have different congregations. We got about 10 congregations.
Have you seen y'all on YouTube? And that's a bad. And I don't bring it little, but I'm
which community is right? See, it's just like Christian denominations.
No, that's my whole point. That's my whole point.
You have different ideas. You have something.
We gonna hold on.
Everybody can get in the kingdom. We're the ones that say everybody can get in.
Try to breed endangered species and we running out of trees. If I could hold the world in the palm of these hands, I would probably do away with these anomalies. Everybody checking for the new award nominees. Wars and atrocities. Look at all the poverty, ignoring the prophecies. More beef and broccoli, corporate monopoly, weak world economy, stock market toppling, bad marijuana, oxycontin, and Klonopin. Everybody out of it.
No fun. Nothing but emotion. They fell on them.
I probably need to go ahead and have my head examined. Kinda got me on the Def Jam payment plan. Well, I'm in the world of entertainment and trying to keep the singing man sane for the paying fans. If I don't make it through the night, it's like changing plans. Heartstrings, angel wings, praying hands. Lord, forgive me for my shortcomings, for going on tour, ignoring the court summons.
Please call in if y'all got any questions in the Bible. 604-603-8770. This is a very important conversation, man. You gotta get it.
When the sky's the limit, a second is a minute, every hour's infinite.
So I kind of can't get a chance. 30 seconds. And so now when I see these guys out there talking, I'm like, I grew up in the household. It wasn't something that I can't. So people are like, oh, you're not a Hebrew. I'm like, you're not Jewish. I'm like, no, I'm not Jewish. That's the difference between an ancient Hebrew and a Jewish person. But for the sake of, because people are asking questions, I got my DNA done. And then everybody shut up after that. Everybody shut up after that. Risky.
Welcome black. to Barbershop Talking Random Ish with your boys. King is saying, I'm your boy Rick King. Will Sane is out protecting us, making sure we good. Salute to you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Starlight is getting ready for school. Her journey has begun. So she's doing that. But tonight, man, we having a very important conversation. I got two brothers in the house with me. Pastor Brian Murray Brown.
You kicked off the show, man. Don't come tomorrow. You're not engineering tomorrow, man.
What?
You clown.
I'm sleeping right now. I'm gonna be here tomorrow.
Casey, you hear him, Casey?
I'm gonna be here. In fact,
we're gonna talk about this tomorrow too. We're gonna talk about this tomorrow.
In fact, before we get back into this, tell them where else they can find you.
You can hit me up on YouTube, youtube.com/itsmajors1, which is Boom Church, our YouTube channel with teachings and a lot of different things on there. You can also hit me up on Facebook, search William Brown, or search Evangelist Majors.5 on YouTube, or you can email us at boomchurch, I as in Indiana, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, at gmail.com. So it's boomchurchint@gmail.com.
And when can they find you tomorrow?
I will be here, Love 860 a.m. We have our show at 3 p.m., but we also have our services tomorrow at 11 o'clock at 7581 Tar Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia. Big shout out to Bishop Howard, who is opening his doors to us there. And we have service there at 11 tomorrow on Saturday at 11 a.m. And so if you need more information, you can hit us up. I think it's at Jonesboro, Georgia, 30236. I think that's the zip code.
Brian, where can they find you?
Instagram and Facebook at Our Recreation Church, OUR Recreation Church. I'm Brian W. Horn on all social media. Our app is free, Recreation Church. You can type it in, download our free app. It's got all our information. Connect with us, find out where we're at. We meet every Sunday, 10 o'clock in downtown Athens. That's what we do. And so we're new but growing fast, and excited to put an imprint and an impact on Athens and surrounding areas.
I got a question for both of y'all. Both of y'all brothers are in my community.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't y'all have conversations? And because to me, growing up, religion was a big part of what was going on.
Right.
I mean, you see religion. I remember on old TV shows, if y'all remember a kid get in trouble, go to court, the pastor's with him. You growing up, you see if something happened in the community, the pastor was there. Reverend so-and-so was there. Reverend da-da-da-da. That itch don't have no more.
Absolutely.
You are up the street from him.
Mm-hmm.
You got a gun store and a liquor store in between y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't y'all go buy a gun, get a drink, and talk together and help my community? Why is that not happening?
You want to go, Pastor?
I can give my short experience, because we're new in Athens as it relates to the culture and the community. But I can say this about Athens as an outsider coming in. I have never seen in 25 years of ministry in the earth or the kingdom, the body of Christ, I've never seen a community where the clergy and the pastoral leadership of a city was as open, welcoming, inviting. Now, this is my experience. I'm talking about the favor. I don't know if it's the favor on my life or what, but I have never, I'm talking about black, white, across the board. I've never seen a city like Athens, Georgia, that was as open to communication. That situation you just said, I've had 10 of those conversations.
That's cute.
In 3 months.
Okay, that's cute. That's cute. There's so much ish going on in Athens.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I'm talking about, and it's like, where you might see, back in the day, like I say back in the day, you might see a pastor be able to come out and talk to some of these kids. Because there's no hope in Athens. I'm from Athens, born and raised. When the UGA stops, a lot of the problems start.
Right.
There's no hope. In a lot of places, there seems to be no hope there.
Right.
And you up here.
Mm-hmm.
You from Duval.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. But you ministering out in Jonesboro?
I mean, we have a church in Jacksonville too.
I know you have.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, but up here, where you at? Jonesboro?
Yeah, Jonesboro, yeah.
So that's near Riverdale and all that.
Yeah.
Problems in these communities.
Mm-hmm.
Religion used to be, it's still for a lot of people supposed to be a safe haven. A place where they can go to get some of this relief. A place where they can go to get some bright, some rainbow on a cloudy day. Why is that not happening?
The reason you want me to add, it's a couple of components.
Now, and before you say that, and it's another reason why I say it just like that, because I got homeboys who works in churches, and one thing they said to me during the last depression, I was like, dog, how you doing down there, man? He said, man, I'm good. One thing I know about the church is black folk gonna get their money to the church.
Okay.
When things are bad, when they ain't got nothing to do, nothing else, they gonna get their money to the church.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is, hell, dog. We giving the money to the church, but my lights might not be on, so I can see what's going on in my house.
Mm-hmm.
My son can't get a job, so he busting somebody over the head. We got all these damn churches, we got all this damn religion. Ain't the church supposed to be doing something to help us?
So, okay, you ready for me to answer that?
Please.
Okay. Your buddy said. Now, are you saying this conversation was based upon you and your buddy about struggling?
No,
right?
just having how you doing,
Okay,
brother?
okay, having a good conversation. Okay, do you know people that went to that did not go to church, that has complaints about the church?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know people? Have you had conversations with people that don't attend church, but are critical of the church?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Okay.
And I'm one of them.
Okay.
I tell you, I'm one of them. Hold up, before you say that, somebody just walked in the barber shop.
Okay.
What you need, what you want?
Yo, Red.
What's the deal, Pickle?
I was at that game last night.
I'm sure you were at the game. I'm sure you saw, man. I don't want to hear nothing. Call me when the regular season kickoff.
Okay.
Y'all gonna win the preseason Super Bowl again?
See there? I called to talk to these referees.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you speak to the brothers in the house. Brothers, this is Eric. Eric, go ahead. Give them what you need, what you want.
While you trying to take cheap shots on God's team, I'm calling to talk to some referees.
And God's team is the Cleveland Browns.
Ask them.
Oh my Lord.
What was Jesus? There's 2 ministers right there.
Uh-huh.
What are your names?
They were Cleveland Brown? He was a Cleveland Brown?
Brown.
No, he was brown.
Oh, he was brown. We know he was brown, but he wasn't from Cleveland.
Well, you don't know that.
Oh, okay.
Can I get to my question? Can I get to my comment?
Go ahead, my brother.
I wanted to say this, but I didn't catch both of your names. What are your names again?
Moray William Brown.
And
Brian Horn.
okay, you're both Christian ministers, right?
If you want to say that, go ahead.
Well, nah, I don't want to say it.
I
It's
am
not
for
true.
sure, yes.
Go ahead.
Here's the reason why I'm calling. Because I was listening to what Rick was saying, and I'm not a Christian. I am
Okay.
not a Christian, okay? And I am a critic of the church. But I'm also a constructive understanding of all the good that the church does. And I would say to Rick's comment this: if you think things are bad, let the Christian churches disappear, and you'll see just how much work they really are doing, because things will go haywire. I am in full understanding that funds are limited, people's commitment are limited, and you guys are operating nonprofits that are built on volunteerism, not mandatory commitment. That makes it kind of difficult to measure to what degree they're doing work in the community, wherever the community may be. And then you have another group of people that are volunteering that are not only not committed to the work of the community where these churches are, they're also not committed, truthfully, to the faith that your church, your community is trying to pursue for the afterlife. doing their work, Rick. That's why I'm going to repeat this and exit. Let these churches disappear. You'll see just how much work they were really doing. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't believe that they got it right as far as their faith for the afterlife. So I appreciate y'all. Rick does too, but it's rough.
Eric.
Hey, brother, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, you can ask me a question.
Okay. Are you committed?
To what?
Are you committed?
Oh, a comedian?
No, are you comedic?
I don't. Tell me what you mean.
Do you follow Kemet? Do you follow comedic science?
Oh, that's what you were saying. Committed. I respect all the work that he did, but no, I'm not.
No. Are you Pan-African? Are you a Pan-Africanist?
No.
Okay. Now I just heard you saying afterlife, so I know that's kind of a catchword for when I hear that. I was just wondering, were you Kemetic, K-E-M-E-T, or ancient Egypt, or do you follow Egyptian science?
I understand what you were saying now. I couldn't catch your enunciation.
Okay.
I know much about him and all that came after him, but no, I am not.
Okay.
I accept the existence of Yahweh as probable truth, but I don't accept the Christian belief as being the way to go. That's where it stops with me. I got enough sense to know what I don't know. You know what I mean?
So are you a Hebrew Israelite?
The answer to what you're trying to get to is I have no religious affiliation.
Okay. Now I'm not trying to tie you down. I'm not trying to form some form of apology. I'm just asking a question, just kind of see where you're at.
Well, yeah, I was trying to not tie up unnecessary time trying to find out what I am. I'm just making it clear to you that no, I don't have any religious affiliation.
Okay, cool. No,
but I do have, but as it applies to the nonprofits that Christian churches are and the work that they do in the community, independently and sometimes collectively as a network, I understand that if y'all wasn't there, in most places, you would really see just how much work y'all were doing because a lot of things would just go haywire. That's now, I have a volunteer project that I've had with the Catholic Church since I was a teenager, and I'm not Catholic.
Right. No,
I stick with it because they stick with it.
I appreciate it. Now, I wasn't trying to form any type of, tension or nothing like that. I was just asking, just kind of see what
that way.
at.
I don't know that you were.
Eric.
But I do have one question to exit, then I'm going to get off the air.
I need you to see my cashier, man. Yeah, I need you to see my cashier on your way out.
This is a genuine question, okay? No innuendo in this. Do you believe that people that are Christians are more worthy of your help than people that are not, whatever that help may be? And I'll listen off the air, offline.
See my cashier on your way out, Eric. Don't be trying to cheat me this time. I got the man looking at you.
Hey, I gotta tell you this time. I see you lock the bathroom door, so I can't.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir. And I'll put a change machine in it, too.
No. Is he's gone?
Yeah, he's gone.
I want to deal with the question.
Let's do
I'm
it.
going to finish where I was going at with this.
Look, you got a little bass in your boy. You whoop your chest out.
No, I want to finish. I want to finish this though.
Okay.
And big shout out to the caller who called in. Here's my issue.
Uh-huh.
Those who don't contribute anything to the church have no authority to criticize the church.
Mm-hmm.
And reason being is because soon as a storm jump off, soon as something jump off, the first people that run to the church are ones who ain't contributed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. The reason being is because you asked about why me and the brother, and not just us, not literally us, but
I'm talking
as a
about,
body.
and I'm gonna tell you, in my church there's Baptists, Israelites, Muslims. It's Protestants. I mean, but they all up under. A lot of them are up under the same. So that's why you brothers are here.
Right.
Because y'all are who I see in my community.
Right.
So that's why I say in his church is next to your church, is next to his church, and a lot of times y'all are not even coming together as one.
Well, one of the problems is this. The reason why we can't come together is simply because, and it's not all, many of them are too worried about who's gonna get the credit from the results.
Right. Yes. So that's not. But
no, that is a hindering factor.
No, I get what you're saying, but is that God's way?
No, but I'm saying you asked why we can't.
I get you.
You asked why God.
Okay, but so for the whomever trying to get this credit, take this, who needs credit for this? What are they doing with it? Aren't they?
They're trying to build their own kingdoms, man.
Okay, so they're misleading the people, right?
Yes.
Okay, then go ahead and say what you're saying.
Yes, but it's our responsibility as the body of Christ or Hamashiach. It's our responsibility as believers in Christ.
Yes, sir.
To deal with, handle, and approach these issues. If you got brothers that's all about politics and all about credit, trying to get credit, there's no room for that. So it's up to us and our responsibility. Yeah, God gonna be with us.
Yes.
But we have to address it like you're doing right now. Like, yo, it's a problem in my community. Why ain't nobody saying nothing? I agree with you on that. Two areas I don't have time for? I don't have time for politics and complainers. If you're not doing nothing, you have no reason to criticize anybody or anything. But we're here because we're doing something and we have a concern for the people. What I hear from you, your heart is the concern from the people. I don't think you got a God problem. I think you got a people problem.
Exactly. And say that one more time.
That's the
because that is truly, I don't go to nobody's church.
Right.
I don't go to nobody's church. I don't subscribe to nobody's religion. Like I say, my grandparents were Jehovah's Witnesses, so I've been to a Kingdom Hall. My wee daddy, Clifford Gold. Clifford Grove Baptist Church. So no. I just want y'all to know about me a little bit and how I come to who I am. And so I've been to a Kingdom Hall. I've been to a Baptist church. I've been to a mosque. I've done all this because, for lack of better terms, I think a lot of this is some BS. And it's not helping my people. Because I see a lot of men standing up there who's taking a lot of credit for God's work. Mm-hmm. And they're not, and they know these people. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of people out here who are believing more in them than God. Mm-hmm. They have damn near stopped believing in God because they believe in this man, and he know this.
Right.
And he's not doing anything about it. I see this a lot. Now, I have seen two things in y'all. I only seen you once, but it was just something about your teaching and the way you taught the word that day. I do a show with you. I hear what you're saying. I hear the passion. I hear Brother Casey and I can't remember the other name. Yeah. And I hear what y'all saying and it's so different.
It's called authentic.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's the word I'm looking for. Boy, I need to focus some good words. Big old word. Authentic. Yes.
It's authentic. It's real.
Yes.
There's a difference in real and fake.
Mm-hmm.
When y'all come in, and me and Brother Casey had sat out here and had conversations, and you feel it. Mm-hmm. I almost came to Boone.
I don't know why you ain't come to visit.
I almost came.
Now you can't. Now you don't came to Brother Brian church. You gotta come. You can't recreate. You better come to Boone. We right up the street.
My brother,
I'm telling you right now.
My brother, because I had to see my brother-in-law. I had to support my brother and everything. But see, bro, I was sitting here listening to you explain. I'm not gonna say preach. Explain and teach what you've been teaching. I have almost come. Mm-hmm. Because I see a passion, I see something authentic in you when you preach and teach and talk. But see, no, because preach sometimes have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
It begins to get a negative connotation. I'm not saying that anything about that is wrong. Hey, I go sometimes goes for the show. And a good singing. But it sometimes get a negative connotation. So that's why I say when I hear you teach and explain and with your other brothers, the way y'all bring it all together, I almost came. I ain't gonna lie. Mm-hmm. I thought about it. And then to hear you, I ain't heard you go once. But like I say, it was something about y'all that almost made me believe in guess for lack of a better word, a church again.
Yeah.
Real recognizes real.
Yeah.
Because, bro, I don't.
Real recognizes real. And can we define a couple things real quick?
Go ahead.
Just a couple definitions, and these are my definitions. So we can talk about them. But my definition of religion is man's attempt to get to God.
Yeah.
That's my basic definition. I got biblical definitions, theological definitions, but a working definition of religion is man's attempt to get to God. There's always an attempt in religion. So a lot of what frustrates culture, a lot of what frustrates community, a lot of what frustrates humanity is religion. Because any attempt to get to God, in my experience, is Jehovah, it's the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, in my experience, in my understanding of who God is, 3 in 1. When I found out that my best attempt to get to Him was still not a relationship, I quit. But when I realized,
Say that one more time.
when I realized that my best attempt to try to get to Him didn't work and wouldn't suffice the standard of excellence and holiness and purity and all the doctrinal premise of who He is, then I realized that I was going to have someone represent me to get to Him.
Yeah.
Because Jesus comes along and He says, no man comes to the Father,
Yeah.
Except through me.
unless he comes through me. He didn't say I am a way. He said I'm the way.
Right.
And I know there's 100 translations.
Yeah.
But I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. And so in his representation of the Father to us, Jesus is the first one that ever called Yahweh Daddy.
Yeah.
Nobody ever referred to Him in a paternal, relational way. And I'm not trying to, I don't want to go all the way there, and you can jump in anytime. But in the understanding, what frustrates you about religion frustrates me about religion.
Yeah.
But let's be clear, it frustrates God more than it frustrates you. Because God's eternal plan was not to create a religion. It was to create a relationship that would be an eternal pact with Him. God made Adam. When He made Adam.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Because something happened. Something happened in that, and I want to talk about what happened in that. We're gonna take this break. We're gonna take this break. And I don't know if y'all know anything about John Lucas.
John Lucas. Yeah.
The song that he finna play is Devil Works. I don't listen to it. I picked these songs for a reason. We finna play this John Lucas right now at this break, man. Kind of listen to it. I mean, and we gonna come back on that point.
I need 30 seconds. Maybe 60.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Maybe 75.
I know how you do. I seen you. You say you don't like to talk, but
Yeah, but you got me talking about Jesus, so that's when I like to talk.
So we're gonna take this break, and I want to take this break early so we can talk more about it. Because something happened in between the message, the word coming down, and the relation, and developing this relationship. And I guess what the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out, and we definitely not gonna get through it in the next 30 minutes.
Might have to be a part 2.
It's gonna be a part 2 because I really wanted this to start a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Start multiple conversations.
We gotta talk.
We got to talk.
Yeah.
We have to talk. But we will be right back. If y'all want to come into the barbershop, it's 404-603-8770. If you're in your mammy basement, let her know this ain't one of them freaky sexy numbers. We'll talk about that next week probably. But it's 1-888-926-7526. This is Talking Randomish. That's a barbershop style conversation. We will be right back.
Can't say he gonna get you tomorrow.
Woo! What's up?
This is deep, man.
Huh?
It's deep.
Bro, ain't even scratch. Ain't even scratch. Got going good.
I didn't. No. I just wanted to get some stuff up here. Until then, I want to.
We supposed to be your children. I thought we family. You supposed to be my father, bro. I need answers. We don't need to die young. We just need chances. Tired of living on that edge, so we keep scrambling. Trying to talk to these strippers, but they keep dancing. We just want me #1 like Steve Francis. Bow our heads saying prayer, now the seeds planted. Everywhere I turn, I'm seeing MCs vanish. A lot of good getting done, I don't understand it. A lot of families lost and they seeds stranded. I ain't trying to disrespect you, I just need answers. I know you're watching us from heaven thinking who to say. Cherry picking who should go next and who should stay. I'd be on my way to heaven if I knew the way. And bring back every gun you get choose to take. They say you're never wrong, but you done made a few mistakes. Cause you taking the wrong niggas, maybe you should trade. Trade us back all the real ones for who the fake. I think you should trade. Give us two you should. Let the legend resurrect and he gon' live for good. I've been screaming thug life in every different hood. If only you can bring it back, Lord, I wish you would. Give us Biggie, give us Pun, give us Triple X. Take that electron with you, that's a bigger threat. There's too much power for a cowboy, no intellect. That's a bigger with a collar, there's a disconnect. Niggas dying, mama crying, grandma need a tissue. She can do another church, now I need a pistol. All the niggas they are living, you don't see the issue. But how you take a leader, then you take a leader with you. I ain't tryna disrespect, just need a meter with you. I ain't tryna overstep, just want a reason with you. Give us back our love, wasn't take the evil with you. Send them suckers straight to hell, they don't need a visual. I need you to give us back Martin Luther, take Martin Screlly, give us back Malcolm, take R. Kelly, R.I.P. Lil Snoop, Bud Light back, take Eric Holder, give us Eric right back. I'm sending you this message, Lord, I hope you hit me right back. They say I'm on the wrong train, I know I'm on the right track. Cause Trey Bar Garden only did what Trump fight back. Zimmerman walk around free, we don't like that. Why you take it from us? These are my life, everybody got guns, they say it's and every gangster wanna prove that they tough as fuck. You know it's not fair, tell the truth. I've been in my feelings too, but if you took Emmett Till, at least take Dylan Roof, at least take James Holmes. I ain't even mad at that. Just bring back Whitney and give us Michael Jackson back. Feds want me and then slam it down. Ain't no justice for Sandra Bland, we up like the Salem fan. Lord, if you listen, I'm just looking for a hand in hand. Take out this nigga's ghost, forgive us back, I fam again. Drowning in my tears, trying to pray for some. Wonder why you give us life for you to take it from us. Wonder why you give us family, then erase it from us. Maybe hopefully you can have a conversation with us. Maybe I'm just probably tripping cause I need a hug. The hood can't run jobs, never need a plug. Everybody and their mama trying to be a thug. I don't go to church cause I'm afraid to be a judge. I've been staring at the ceiling as a line bed. Watch it again, follow trends like Simon says. I pray you give us back the real ones and try again. Or maybe take us again that deserve to die instead. Tommy Lauren run her mouth and then she get defensive. Lori Ingram laughing at death and disrespecting. I really feel like you should teach them stupid a lesson. Either that or give us back somebody who deserved a blessing. I left out a bunch of names that I forgot to mention. Cost too much to pay attention and it got expensive. Father, forgive me for I know not what I do, and now I'm reaching out to you, hoping you hear me and return the message. I know that you got our back and that you're not against us. But maybe you just love it, so you're doing shit to distress us. I just kinda thought that you would do more to protect us. They say the good die young, and I ain't on the guest list. I've been drinking, Lord, forgive me as my blood racing. I don't know what I'm thinking, I'm just frustrated. I don't mean to question you, I'm just confused. I don't know what else to do. I've been patient and it sucks waiting. Took my meds from me, that vibe I'm putting the blame on you, that it never worked. I know this ain't your fault, it's the devil's work.
Yes, it's crazy, man.
Devil's work, devil's work, devil's work.
Welcome black to Barbershop Talking Around this with your boy Rick Kane. Will Sane is out in the building. The lovely Starlight is at home praying because she got next week she starts school. Brian, the relationship between God and man has got, and we on FCC, so I can't say what I really want to say. It's got jacked up. Something happened. Majorly something happened, and it is so jacked up that a lot of folks don't do God, they don't do religion, they don't do none of that. We just freestyling out here. I still like to think I have a relationship with God. I pray to him. I talk to him often.
You do.
But I talk to him like I'm talking to y'all.
I mean, that's the way it should be.
I cuss sometimes, and I be mad sometimes. Sometimes I be drinking, and I talk to him, and I might cuss.
Did Peter cuss?
A whole lot more than that one moment. Too.
Yeah. So I mean, I am one of these typical brothers. I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah, I got you.
I know that's a big thing, but because religion/church is so, it's just not, it doesn't, the moral values, morals. We had this conversation on your show. Growing up, you drive by a church, you listening to your good music, smoking. You drive by a church, you try to sit on the turn your music down.
Yeah.
Nowadays you ride by the church.
No respect.
Shoot them a finger.
Yeah.
Because something happened with their relationship.
So let's look at that definition again real fast. Religion is man's attempt to get to God. So when man's attempt can't get to God, then he has to have a representative to go before him. And so God in his wisdom, the only way to redeem man is to come as man. Mm-hmm. And so when God made Adam as the first man, physical man, there's no other hands that could have made Adam except for the hands of Christ himself. He's the Son of God. He's the flesh of God.
Right.
God and Father is spirit. He's not something you can grab or put in a box. He's God. Everything's in him. We're not going to him. He is God.
Right.
We're all in him. So Jesus makes Adam out of dirt. Dirt's different colors, depends on where you go.
Okay,
so watch this. Let me give you the definition. Here's the picture.
Let me stop you right there. Because I've been wanting...
I know where you're going too. I know exactly where you're going.
I don't think nobody knows where I'm going right here with this. One of my biggest problems with religion is my interpretation of God and Jesus. Because in the scripture, I think in John 3:16, he said God sent his son, but he didn't say, I sent myself. He said, I sent my son so that you can have.
Are you trying to, that's a whole show.
It's a whole other show. We're trying to get into the Trinity.
Like you're trying to get into a concept that nobody has actually can figure this out.
But
we can only kind of.
I get what you're saying.
Our
minds can't.
But our minds can too.
I ponder on this so much. I have these conversations so much.
Okay.
Me and my brother, our brothers, Cameron.
Okay.
We have these conversations a lot. I've had this conversation with Stevie. I've had these conversations that I think God and Jesus are two totally different. Because to me, I don't think God would confuse us in saying, I sent my son. Instead of, I think he would say, I sent myself. It's a whole nother show, and that's how I know I'm going to get y'all back here.
I'm good with that, because he said, let us make man in our image. I understand the context of the three, but see, the simplest way we all know it is that I'm a father, and I'm a husband, and I'm a son. And I don't have to do anything other than know who I'm dealing with to change the role in which
the only difference in that is you are a father, you are a husband, you are a whatever. He said, I sent my son. That's the difference. And to me, this is Rick acting, Rickology.
Okay,
this is just Rick saying. I don't think God would confuse us like that.
It's not confusing.
It's not confusing.
It's confusing if...
No, let me explain.
It's not confusing.
Go ahead.
Listen to
the ice in your freezer is about the best way to understand.
Right. Listen to the terminology that's being used, right? No,
there's a slight difference. I understand what you're saying with the ice.
No, listen.
Yes, sir.
So we're identifying the creator by the term God. God all it means is deity, right?
Yes.
Now, we get an inside glimpse of certain conversations that Jesus said, right? He said, no man has seen, heard, or talked to the Father at any time, right?
Yes.
He didn't say God. He said Father. Here's the point I'm making. Jesus in his authority, his deityship is God. The Father is also God. The point that where people get tripped up is this whole dialogue or conversation of the Father and the Son. The Son is the one who sent, right?
See, most people think that they are the same person. It's just me. Sometimes I think it's just me.
That's why we're getting into. That's why I phrased it that way, taking the God title out of it.
Yeah, because it's two conversations, natural and spiritual. If you keep looking at me for 30 more years, you're going to see my Father.
I get that.
Hold on. So the disciples said to him, show us the Father. Jesus said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
But God said,
but you're looking at time.
You're
observing
but see,
time.
then you got to think of, he created man in the image of.
I'm 43. My dad's 73. In 30 years.
I get what you're saying.
If you're still around.
I get what you're saying.
You're going to see my Father.
So who was talking?
I'm not hiding here. I don't want to hide over here.
It's not hot over here.
So
y'all got some special air over there?
No, it's a fan.
Oh, the fan blowing. Woo!
Holy Spirit. We're talking about him.
Y'all trying to get it from me.
I hope that's not in the mic.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
I'm good.
So if no man is seen or heard at any time, right? Then we have to go back to the garden.
Yes.
The one who created and the one who having the conversation with Adam is who we know as the Christ. Here's what I'm saying to you.
Because the person that was
no man has seen
nobody has seen God.
Period.
Right.
That's what I was trying to tell you. It was his hands that made him and his lips that breathed.
Period. No man.
And I get that.
They ain't even talk to him.
But see, so God would put us on a riddle, say, riddle me this.
That's not a riddle.
Not a riddle.
No. Because I think he would have, I don't think he would have said, this just me. This is not, hey, y'all can cut this off. Y'all ain't got to listen to me say that because this is just me. I don't think God would have said, like I say, sent my son. Or back in the Garden of Eden. I think at some point he would have said, I am.
These are 3 dispensations.
Yes.
These are 3 dispensations.
Talk to us.
The older, what you're looking at in creation is the first dispensation, the first representation of the Godhead. The second representation is the flesh. It's the Son of the living God. The third, after Acts chapter 2, now we have the third person of the Trinity, which is the Aparis, the Charis, the breath, the life of the Spirit. They're 3 in 1, but they can't manifest in the earth except in dispensations. And so that's why he has to be time, moments of time stamps. These are divisions of time. But here's the trick. God doesn't live in time. We do.
Right.
He doesn't live in time. He lives in eternity. We live in time. Only dead people wear watches. People dying wear watches. Ain't nobody living forever wearing a watch because you don't care what time it is. If you're dying, you're wearing a watch because you're measuring time. God only measures times by when he stamps his entrance into time. When he invades time, so in the Old Testament, God would come on a person and then he would come off of a person. He would come on them, they would do exploits, he would come off. Jesus shows up in the flesh to show them what it looks like with dominion, power, and authority. Then he tells them right before he leaves, it's expedient for you that I go. Because if I go, I'm going to send the comforter. I'm going to send the third dispensation. I'm going to send the spirit of who God is. And he's not just going to be with you like I'm with you. He's going to be in you. But what you don't believe yet is that the same spirit
only
of God
through me do you get to my Father.
But that's the relationship piece. This is the relationship
It's no different. You're harboring on the title is the confusing part.
And it's still the confusing part today.
It's confusing. The title.
You still trying to figure out whether to call him pastor, reverend, mare. The title is where the religion gets lost. Titles are for function. Titles are for function. They're not. Titles actually remind you who you are. My dad calls me Brian. You know why? Because that's the name they gave me. Right? My daughter calls me Dad because I named her. That's a whole nother relational conversation. She calls me Dad. Why? Because we named her. We we put that on her. So there's different
Your
definitions.
wife called you probably a whole bunch of other things.
She called me Big Daddy, right? She called So watch this. Watch the relationship. Because here's where we're confused, and I don't want us to miss this tonight.
Yeah.
In the
We
religion,
better get off because we're going to get back to my
in
community.
religion,
Yes.
Okay.
in religion, there's always frustration. In relationship, there's always fulfillment. God doesn't want religion, he wants relationship. So a church was actually not man's idea, it was God's idea. When you go into a church and you see an agenda, when you see man's agenda, you're always going to detest that because God does. But when you go into a place of worship or a place where people gather, where there's a mission to help people, to take care of people, to love people, to defend people, to speak to equality, to speak to the gospel, which is the gospel. All these terms are just the gospel. It's Christ and him crucified. It's what he came to do, seek and save that which is lost. But here's where we mess up. We look at everything with a steeple and call it a church.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because it's a steeple don't mean it's a church. You don't even know in today's culture what's a hospital and what's not, because architecture has changed. Back in the day, you knew what a hospital was in every community. Now you got so many hospitals, they're everywhere. They look like executive business suites. They look different. So what I'm trying to challenge you.
They right next to the church.
Absolutely.
The gun store, the liquor store.
Right.
They right next to all
But
that.
people are going to die in hospitals tonight.
Yeah.
People are going to die in hospitals tonight. But guess what? When you get sick enough, you're still going to go to the hospital. The problem with the church is no longer a hospital.
Yeah.
And its primary function, it's a social club.
Absolutely.
It's a country club. It's
Okay,
all
okay.
these. That's
So
man. That's religion. That's religion.
Right. But the church was
But
never intended
Never.
How
to
did we
be
get
a
there?
building
How did we get
structure.
there?
It was never limited that way.
How did we get there?
When you read, we got there because of man creating structures. Now here's the thing: these structures were even created during ancient Israel, but it was the church, as we know it, or the ecclesia, or the body, or the congregation, was never limited to just the building. The first church that the Bible even speaks about was Israel and Gentiles, or a mixed multitude in the wilderness.
Catacombs, underground.
Right, there was no
building.
structure, no building. So later on, when Israel gets its land and gets its territory, gets into the promised land, then God gives, say, okay, build this temple, right? But this temple was for what he was supposed to come down and meet, and the priest would function. But it was never limited to that being the church itself. Fast forward, we come in modern day times. Now it goes back to what you're saying. Why we don't get together and do the work? Because the purpose for the community, the church was supposed to be a community.
Say that one more time. No. Say the first sentence one more time. Why don't we what?
Why don't we come together? Because we're supposed to be a community.
Yes.
Here's the thing, and this is getting into some history stuff that I don't want to really get into as deep into the community about pre-Nicene Council. The pre-Nicene Council, the church, the body of believers, 98% of what they believed were the same. It didn't matter if they was in Persia. It didn't matter if they was in Asia. It didn't matter where these bodies of believers were at. They were a community in these different locations and regions, right?
Was it circumcision and blood? It's the only thing
Right.
they were fussing about.
Right. Most of them were fussing. When you go to Acts 15, they were dealing with that. They had to come back to Jerusalem to deal with this matter. But the point that I'm saying is that they were functioning as a community no matter what region they were in. They still function as a community. Now, it's all about, well, this is my thing. I'm going to build my thing. I'm going to do it my thing. We all get a vision of something, but it's not our thing. And we can't get into a place where we're taking this thing and making it our thing, and I forget about him. Because if he's the arm, I can't be the leg. I can't be the arm. I'm called to be a leg.
Yes.
But I can't dismember him
Yes.
off of the body.
Yes.
The point of the church was supposed to be a body of believers. So if you got a concern, you come to the arm, you come to the leg, and the body come together and say, hey, look, our brother, as being the toe, he got a problem.
Don't
With
forget.
the way the body not functioning.
Hold on. We're going to go back to come to...
Don't forget she's a female.
No. And I get
Don't
it.
forget she's a female.
And I get it. But a lot of times I can't get to you. A lot of times I can't get... Nowadays I can't even get to you.
That happened in the biblical days too.
That happened. That's
I can't...
They couldn't get to him.
I can't even get to...
Yeah,
Because...
but you got a cell phone.
But you ain't going to answer
You got
mine.
email.
You ain't going to answer mine.
But
But you going to send it through... You're going to send it through... sister so-and-so or sister or brother so-and-so.
They did the same thing in the book of Acts.
So let's go
They
back
did the
to,
same thing. They
what
sent it
about-
through people.
What
'cause
about
they couldn't
Moses?
get
What about Moses? Moses has 3 million people.
Yeah.
So his father-in-law
70
watches
elders.
him from sun up to sundown, having to deal with civil, domestic
that sounds
issue after
good.
issue. Jethro watches, and he's like, "You can't do this. You have to put a system in place so that you can minister to the masses." The problem is, if the ministry of Jesus Christ is built around a person, watch this. Why'd he leave? If the gospel was supposed to be built around a person, why did he think it was so important for him to leave?
Because it was supposed to be built upon the community.
Because it's a body.
It's a body.
It's not supposed to be about him.
And to
It's a body. He wanted him
But
and us.
a lot of the
so
problem,
we could touch the world. Because one person can't touch the world.
But to Brian's point is this. You know the reason why he had a problem with the Pharisees? It wasn't because they was teaching keep the commandments and the
Right.
holy one. It was because they was being hypocrites. They weren't doing what they were teaching, right? They weren't doing those things. They turned the community structure into a hierarchy.
That's true.
And that's the issue he had with them. Because they said, hey, everything got to go through us. We make all the decisions. You don't know nothing. Your voice, they start silencing the voice of the people. Then Christ comes on the scene and he started empowering the people.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
was
the
my point.
problem.
He told them, he said, I got to go because you're going to do greater things than I did.
Absolutely.
How did he know that? Because the power of the Spirit in you that you call hip hop and that I call sports as religion, you know what these are? These are actual platforms. Stay with me. These are platforms for us to touch the community.
Yes.
You use hip hop, I'm going to use sports. We're going to he uses
Music.
history, music, he
history.
uses culture, he uses different parts of culture. But you know what the common goal is? Bring people to the table.
Absolutely.
Eliminate the deadness and the fruitlessness of religion.
That's it.
So that we can come and have the life that comes through the Spirit. Jesus said, you think you have life because you know the scriptures. He said the scriptures are actually standing in front of you and you don't even recognize
You don't even
it.
recognize it.
Because the letter of the law killeth, he said, but the Spirit gives life. There is no life in religion. That's why you hate it. That's why I hate it. That's why my brother hates it. That's why Jesus hated it. That's why he braided a whip and went into the temple to church and literally turned over money changers and systems and stuff that they were doing
And were whipping
because
people
they
too.
forgot
But y'all
that
think he
prayer
saw.
and community was actually the life of the body of Christ.
Y'all think Christ saw? He was whipping people. Kicking tables, turning calling for vipers. That's cussing folk
You
out,
hate
man.
religion because Jesus hates religion and Christ is in you. He's the hope of glory. You're going to hate what he hates.
Now,
You're going to love what he loves.
we're not going to solve this tonight. We're not going to solve this tonight.
Tune in next week at
Nah, I got some booty shaking. That's one thing going on in the barber shop. You might not want to be a part of it, Pastor. Next week. The barber shop. We got everything.
Hey,
going
man,
on
I
here.
appreciate you coming to the bar.
No,
I can show you 10 stories where Jesus would have showed up to that party too.
Yes.
I'm going in. Now, we have about 3 minutes. There's too much damn religion. There's too many damn churches. Not enough resolution in our community. In both of y'all humble opinion, how do we start? How do we start getting somewhere so that we can be in favor of God? Please ourselves and help the people who don't know, don't care, or don't see no hope. How do we begin to start this?
You want to go ahead?
Every ism is rooted in ignorance. And so racism, of course, is a huge part of that ism. Isms are rooted in ignorance. And so what we're actually doing today is actually a part of the solution to the problem. But it's not just talking, it's actually learning, it's growing. It's coming to the table saying, you know what, I don't know everything. I don't have every vantage point. I don't understand everything. But the problem is if you want to know something, you got to submerge yourself into the culture and into the community that you want to understand and meet. And so one of the things that we had the privilege of doing when we moved to Montgomery was we enrolled in classes at Alabama State. The first class we took was African American history. So my wife and I, two white people sitting in an African American history class at a historical black college. Everybody in the room's black, the professor's black, and over the course of that quarter, what we were learning was not so much about what we were learning on the pages of that book, because I could have read that anywhere. But it was not just what I was learning, but it was what other people were learning. And so over the course of that period of time, when you begin to open your heart and open your mind to say, you know what, I don't know everything, what you're doing right now is actually you're setting the table. You're preparing a table for people to come and to have conversation. It doesn't have to be sterile. It doesn't have to be clean. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to sound right or look right or feel right. But what it has to be is honest. And if we can ever get the authenticity of honesty, if we can honestly say, you know what, I'm white, you're black, but you might not know this, but I might have more black in certain areas than you understand. Because culture is defined, and these definitions that we're messing with, if we don't define a thing, whatever, Pastor Ramsey taught me this, whatever you don't define will define you. So anything that you don't have definition for, rooted in truth, if it's from oral tradition, if it's from historical, because 90% of history is not accurate. Unless you lived it.
That's true.
Everything else was documented. So what we're reading is the version of, and I agree with you. I agree with you. What we can't devalue is what the pneuma of the breath of God is.
Absolutely.
Because God had to breathe on multiple men and women over long periods of time in order to put together what we call the Bible. You can debate what should be in there and what shouldn't be, but the spirit of this thing is real. And the ignorance has to be eradicated. You shall know the truth, Jesus said, and the truth will set you free. He's talking about these conversations.
Brian, you talk to me.
I think it's your walk is greater than anything you can say out of your mouth.
Yes.
I think that when we start looking at the commission given to the disciples who later became apostles, the impact was based off their walk. You take 11 men, or 12 at the time, 11 after, and turn the world upside down, and what we know today as the text. I think that people have to see, as Brian was talking about, the authenticity, but also relatability. You know, you can't be, especially you become a leader. Actually, the higher you go up as a leader, the more of a servant you must become. And I think that that's the issue that we're having. People become leaders and then still stay on the pedestal. Now, there's nothing wrong with honor. Don't get me wrong with honoring a leader, but we also have to become a servant. And I think that people see that. People watch our walk. What you're saying, why we can't get together, is based off you're looking and seeing we're not walking what's being in the text, or we're not walking what we're saying. Because I've heard preachers over the pulpit preach say, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that, and they don't never do anything. It's just all talk to keep the people there. So it's important for us to understand that if we bring forth a demonstration, first of all, we come together and with an open heart. When we come together with an open heart, accept the reality of what it is, don't reside in that place. No agenda. We all got struggles, we got issues in the community, but that's not a place to reside. That's a place that we visit, but we have to reside in trusting God for one, and then trusting each other second. Because no matter how when we go out in this hood, we can take Brian, we can take you, we still got to be able to trust God and each other in the hood.
Where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube. It's Majors 1, and also you can hit me up on Facebook, William Brown. I'm friends with Pastor Brian, as well as I'm friend with Rick King. So go on into their pages, look me up under William Brown. You can send me a friend request, but definitely hit me up on YouTube or boomchurchint@gmail.com.
Where can they find you? Recreation Church, Instagram, Facebook, Brian W. Horn on the same as well. Our app, Recreation Church, you can download it for free. It's got all that information. We'd love to hear from you. This is Talking Brandon Bitch Barbershop Time Conversation. Hey, if you're on my Facebook Live tonight, please follow at your boy. Follow me. We do this. We have conversations about the community. All the conversations like this, we touch some lighter stuff, we touch some heavier stuff, but mental health, mental health, sexual understanding is a lot of my big things. I want people to understand the mental health, the psychology. I want them to understand religion. I want my community to be better. This is Talking Randomish. It's time to sweep the floors, clean the clippers. We gonna let them battle on who gonna clean the bathroom. The shop is closed.
We're talking randomly.
Love you, man. Love you.
Wow. Talking random.
Man, you're the answer to the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes, man.
Wild rap for the
The opinions expressed during the sponsored programs on this station are strictly those of the programs, guests, and callers, but not necessarily those of the Wesley Broadcast Group, this station, staff, other advertisers, or agents.
Nah, this is so much better, bro. This was so much better. I mean, like I say,
The way that thing just made it out, yeah.
That's all.
Beautiful. I ain't gonna lie, but that was